Okay, awesome. Well, welcome. I think we have I've just started the webinar, so we're recording, and I want to welcome everybody that's out there, all of our students. My name is Renee Davitt. I'm a member of the Career Education and Human Resource Department here at St. Mike's, and I'm also an alum from the class of 1986. And I sit on the alumni board with two of the people that you see here on the screen, CZ Leos and Marianne Straighton, Susan, a classmate of mine. So what I wanted to do is give you all a chance to hear who our panelists are here tonight on our exploratory panel. And Marianne has just put in the chat, if you would also share while you're listening, who you are out there, what's your class year, what's your major, where you're from, because that might give you a good connection with some of the people that are here. So just going by who I see on my screen, I'm going to start with you, Jameson, if you would introduce yourself to the students out there, give us a little bit of an overview of your experience since you left St. Mike's.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, my name is Jameson Vasquez. I live here in Charlestown, Massachusetts. I graduated St. Mike's in 2010. I have been in talent acquisition or recruiting, whichever you'd like to call it, for the last 11 years. So I literally fell into this role about 3 months after graduating. And right now I am the director of global recruiting for an Israeli startup. So we are a global organization. And I run a team of about 5 at the moment, some based in Israel, some based in Ukraine, some based here in the US. So that's, yeah, a little about me. I just got married in September. I have a dog. So just trying to live the COVID life and, make things as best as we can.
Thank you. Laurie Boucher, fellow classmate of mine. Oh, you're muted, Lauren.
Got it. Laurie Boucher, class of 1986. A long and winding road to where I am now. I am the interim co-director of college counseling at Tabor Academy in Marion, Massachusetts. I hail from the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And I'm eager to answer questions and talk to everyone tonight. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Amy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Duffy. I grew up on Cape Cod and went to college at the best school in the world, St. Mike's. I graduated in 2008. After college, I too had a long and winding road to where I am today. I worked in educational travel. I took a year off to teach English in France. I worked in recruiting at the Boston Consulting Group, and ultimately a move to Colorado brought me to my current firm. It's Design Workshop. It's a landscape architecture, urban planning, and design firm of about 165 people with 8 offices across the US. So I started in a HR generalist role, and today I'm our director of human resources, a principal, and I also sit on our board of directors as of this September. I'm really excited to be here. I did not know what I wanted to do in college at all. I was a French major, and I loved that. But I would have to say that graduation rolled around, and I was sitting in that chair being like, now what? So it's really all worked out for me, and I'm excited to share whatever I can with you today about that path.
Oh, thanks. So ironically, Amy, I was a French major at St. Mike's also.
No way.
So what is it about St. Mike's French majors that end up working in human resources?
It's just all of those complementary skills to that liberal arts education.
I guess so. So why don't we start with just some general questions, and then we can work our way through to some of the specific questions that were asked of students that signed up for this exploratory panel. So what advice do you have for students that may be exploratory, that are trying to decide where they want to direct their times at St. Mike's? as they look towards careers. Why don't we start? Lauren, we'll start with you. Oh, mute.
Stupid mute button. I would say be open, take risks, travel, go. Just like be open to things. Don't feel like you've got to follow any sort of real specific path. I think when you're open and willing to try things, there's a lot out there. As I described, I've lived in lots of different places, and I've had different careers really, and I've wound up in a place that I really love. I not only work with teenagers, I live with teenagers. I am on duty in a dorm of 24 girls tonight. And, for someone who's 57 years old, I would say, I gather a lot of energy from students that I live and work with, and it keeps me feeling young and good. And so again, be open and take risks. Don't feel like you have to follow a specific path, though many of your parents will tell you that you should.
Yeah, once you start working, then you kind of pay the man for a long time, right? Yeah. So, Amy, do you want to follow up with your answer to that?
And I would love to. So I love what Lauren said about traveling. It will get harder as you get older. I kind of rolled my eyes at people when they used to say that to me. But if that's something you love to do and you have an itch, go see the world before sleeping in a hostel dorm room with 18 other people sounds terribly unappealing. And then the second thing that I would say is be comfortable with the fact that your career will not be linear. And that's completely fine. Opportunities will present themselves to you, and maybe it's not the end goal, but maybe it gets you a step closer to thinking about what you want. So don't feel like, a curved path is not the right path. And then finally, I would say, even if you don't know what you want to do specifically, think about your values and what feels right to you. Because ultimately, I think you can gain a lot or narrow down your search a lot from understanding where your personal values might align to a company. And maybe it's not your dream job, but if you're at a place that kind of similarly reflects what you believe in and your values, chances are you're going to be a lot happier than if you choose an organization where they don't.
Thank you. Listen, do you want to follow up with that?
Yeah, I think I could, kind of go along with what just Amy just said. Again, I've been recruiting since basically 3 months after I graduated. And for me, it's been an interesting and winding path of, I started out in nonprofit. I went to oil and gas, which sounds very weird. I've been in tech, I've been in footwear. I have done, the gamut, and it's all been different and it's all been fun. And I was not coming out of college thinking, hey, sitting there, in May of 2010 saying, hey, I'm going to go into HR, like honestly had zero idea. And looking back on it, I, again, fell into this. And I would say to myself back when I was 22, interview for as many things as you possibly can, because you really don't know what's out there. And in my line of work and what Amy's done, you get to really see how much else is out there and what different career paths are out there. And sometimes you do get a little far into your career and you're like, wow, what could I have done back when I was 22? So for me, and I tell every, entry-level person I talk to, take as many interviews as you possibly can, speak to as many people as you can, go on, LinkedIn and find how many people you can. Like, that's been the best thing for me. And honestly, the last 3 jobs I've had, I haven't applied for a single one. It's been people that I've met through different avenues. And I think it's much like Lauren and Amy said, it's been a winding road. It's been a fun road, but take advantage of the people take advantage of the experiences. The best experience I got at St. Mike's was going abroad. It was the first time I'd ever left the country. And I honestly believe that set me up for just going out there and putting myself out there to anyone that would listen to. And you have to do that. And that's been the most thrilling part of it. And just take a chance on yourself.
Great. You touched on something that, as a member of the career education team, we are constantly encouraging the students and alum that we work with to reach out to St. Mike's alums, either through SMC Connect or through LinkedIn, to do some networking. And I know that's a difficult thing for us to be asking students to do. What do you like to see when a student reaches out to you and they want to connect?
Yeah.
Yes. Or I wish they asked it different.
If it's a St. Mike's student, I'll accept regardless, right? Like anyone that I see St. Mike's, I just happen to click connect. Sometimes I'll forget to even read what they wrote because I'm honestly just happy to. Funny enough, I've hired 2 directors at our company that happen to be St. Mike's folks, and I totally didn't realize till like halfway through the interview. So it's great. And there's so many St. Mike's people out there, but just be honest of why you want to connect with me. If you're out there just saying, hey, I see that you're in this industry, I'd love to connect. Awesome. If it's, hey, I saw something that you posted out there, great. It can be, hey, I'm just part of the St. Mike's community and I'd love to have you part. Like if for me, again, anyone that is coming to me from the St. Mike's community, I'm here at any time. So that's great. If you're going someone outside the community, it's, yeah, be very direct, be asked, go up front of what you're looking for and be prepared to follow up, because that first message does get lost. When you click that accept, sometimes it gets there and it goes away and people just don't see it. So make sure you do follow up. But so for everyone out there that's from SMC, find me, I will connect with you and I'm happy to have a conversation. But that, just put yourself out there a little bit, give us a little bit of blurb about what you're looking for. And people are happy to help more than you think they are.
Thank you. Amy, anything you would add to that?
I would add something to that. So Jameson talked a lot about like making that initial connection. When you're going to that next level of networking and you're asking for someone's time or advice, I would ask that everyone is just be specific in what you're asking for. Like maybe the person doesn't have time for an hour and a half Zoom with no agenda, but maybe they do have 30 minutes to chat very specifically about a work experience or something else like that. So just try to narrow in on what's going to be most useful for you so that even if it's a short amount of time, you're still getting something out of it.
Yeah. Lauren, have you ever had a St. Mike's alum reach out to you through LinkedIn or SMC Connect?
I don't think I have, but I'd be super willing to have anybody reach out to me at Tabor. And I know that there were some questions that came to us ahead of time. Yeah. And, someone said that they went to Vermont Academy and they understand that I work here at a boarding school and sort of how do you get involved? It's at schools like this, jobs open every year. Sometimes we have 2 people who leave. Sometimes we have 14. We are and most boarding schools are generational communities, and sometimes people retire. Sometimes people want to be away from the South Coast and move toward Boston, and so there's always jobs open. This is a lifestyle, and I will say that you have to be willing to work a lot, and you have to be willing to work hard. But the opportunities at a place like this, and I've worked at boarding schools, other independent day schools, and I've also worked at public schools too. So I have experience in a lot of different systems. So I'm happy to give advice. I'm happy to give people feedback on what you're thinking, or a lot of people just want to know, like, what's it like? What's it like to work at a school like yours? I've traveled a lot as a result of working here. And many of the opportunities are paid for by the school because, I've chaperoned kids in South America and I've traveled to Asia. There's a lot there's a lot going on, and you get great breaks. I have 10 days off for Thanksgiving, and that's like a big perk. So we work hard, and then we get these really nice chunky breaks off. But I think no matter what, reaching out and being a go-getter and letting people know I am willing to work hard, that's important.
Sure. So thinking about what you all do on a daily basis, what do you want to share about what you like and what you don't like about your jobs? Because I mean, that's reality. There's something every day that we all come upon that is like, I really don't want to do this. Something. What don't you like? What do you like? And how do you deal with that?
I can go first.
Yeah.
So in my role as a director of human resources, I am responsible for, soup to nuts of the depth and breadth of what HR really means. So on any given day, so today, we'll just use today. We're doing our new open enrollment for a new benefit year. So chatting through different benefit selections with staff, and of course been part of the strategy behind selecting those total compensation packages. It's almost the end of the year, so we're talking about salary adjustments and bonuses. So I'm doing some internal and external benchmarking. I was working on some performance issues, coaching staff their performance is not really where it should be, and helping managers to understand how to speak to those people. There is President Biden's vaccine mandate. I have to look into legal compliance pretty much every single day. And then I have a number of foreign employees who are on visas. So I'm involved in just obtaining whatever specific visa they're seeking. So it's just a little bit, but you can really see how much there is to it. So that is what I really like. It's a lot, but I think I've become very well-rounded in what HR really is. And it's really fascinating. It is not the paper filers of the 1970s. It is about strategic people processes that bring out the best in your people, and no business is successful without the brightest people, right? So you really get to be like critically thinking about what you can implement at your organization to attract and retain and develop the best. The harder part is, I think sometimes people tend to think that HR is more of like the complaint department. And like I said, it's really not. Like, I'm here to focus on strategic, like big picture stuff about our people. But you need to make sure that people feel heard and then kind of redirect it in the best way. So that can be a little challenging, a little tiring. But a great way to always spin it is like, okay, well, what is your solution to this? Because people are always more invested in solutions when they're part of creating them. And we're all professionals, so you're really expected to be a problem solver anyway. So, and
great advice for anybody.
And it's probably going to be like, you're going to deal with people unless you're interested in the sciences and working in a lab by yourself. You're probably going to work with other people. You're probably going to manage people at some point. So you're going to be working closely with your HR professionals.
Great. Yeah. Business partners.
Yeah. To kind of go off of Amy, my role, while my primary role is head of recruiting, I'm also the interim head of HR for the US. And it's the first time I've had to do that in my career. So, and that's been on and off for the last 2 years. So this is my first time ever dealing with what Amy talked about for payroll or benefits, and being the one that has to do all of the end of year paperwork for Massachusetts and everything we have to do for this lovely state and for every other state we have employees in. So for today, my day today was, we have 2 new executives that I had to bring on in the last month. So still ramping them up. It is employees. We are doing a end of year review, but at the same time, we bumped up our end of year merit cycle from January 1st to November 1st. So we're implementing that. We're also putting in growth plans for 20% of our employees. So it's a lot of the fun things that I love to do. My normal job is supposed to be going out and recruiting and finding and attracting the best talent. And I love that. That is still what drives me every day. What I dislike is I'm not a benefits person. I love the benefits that I was able to get our company. I don't want to do it again. It's not fun for me. The payroll portion, I'm not a numbers person. I don't want to let any of you know what I took for a math class at St. Mike's because it's embarrassing. I don't know how well I did. I'm glad it's the last math class I ever had to take. But I love the ability to work with our leaders, whether that's here in the US or abroad, to implement different strategies, much like Amy said, of where are these talented professionals going to be, right? And that doesn't mean just what are our mid-level managers or our high potential employees. That is, what are our entry-level folks doing? How are we putting them on a path to success? What does that path look like? I love having those conversations, but I'll go off Amy again and saying, yes, I'm a big believer in, if you're going to come to me with the problem, I want to hear some type of solution. There's nothing worse than a day that I have to go through 10 meetings, and that's 10 Zoom meetings, right? Where you have people coming to you with just problems. And at the end, you're like, well, what's the action item that you'd like to take and I need to take? And them to sit there with silence. That's just a huge turnoff, and when you're waking up at 7 a.m. every day to, work with Israeli folks that are 7 hours ahead of you, and, you end your first morning call at noon, it's like, what's going on? Let's hear some solutions. So it's making sure that you're coming up with ideas, and that doesn't have to be the say all end all, right? But having at least an idea of how you want to come up with those, solutions to the problems makes my life so much easier at the end of a 15-hour day, which is not normal for everybody, right? No one should be doing that, but that's some of us have to, right?
Thanks. Before we move on to Lauren, I just want to remind the participants that are out there, if you have any follow-up questions you want to ask of our panelists, or something you need clarifying, or just you have this real aha moment, please use the chat or use the Q&A so that this panel is to your advantage. Because I can keep coming up with questions. I have the questions that you submitted, but use this to the best. Use your time wisely. So Lauren.
So Renee, I think your question was, there's something, what is it that you don't like doing every day?
What, you talked a little bit about, what you do in terms of being a dorm, like in a dorm, but what do you do on a regular basis, just in terms of guidance? And then what don't you like? We all have those things.
So on a regular basis, obviously I work with kids day in and day out, but it's also in my job as one of the directors of college counseling, I spend a lot of time working with parents. So 2 nights ago, we had a panel discussion. We had 2 representatives from 2 different colleges, one women's college and one small liberal arts college in North Carolina. And it was open to parents to help them learn about the college process from seasoned college folks. So that was fun. I like putting together programs, and then I meet with students along the way. I manage 3 counselors in my office. I think sometimes the toughest, most difficult part of the job, and it doesn't happen that often, is the college process in this country is very charged. Most of you have heard of Varsity Blues. It's supercharged. And I think when parents are paying a lot of money for their students to go to an independent high school, they expect a lot. And when it comes to getting into college, there's a lot there. And so sometimes it is, and this takes some work. Sometimes people will come at you in your jobs, and you have to take some time and understand that you don't have to answer questions right away. And so one of these questions came to me and my partner, Mary Kate, who I work with in the college office. And it was kind of a charged email, and she sent it at night. I took about an hour and I looked at it and I responded calmly. And I thought to myself, there's something behind this question. And so, sometimes you feel like there's bait there, and it's like taking the bait never takes you down the right road. And so you really just have to stop and think. And so I sent her calm, and I explained the way things were going to work. And she sent me an email the next morning and she said, "Thank you so much. My daughter had a poor experience at her school in college counseling. And so I'm just feeling very tense about my son's." She must have been at another school. It's not a name that I recognize. So there was something behind her email that was a little, it was kind of prickly, quite honestly. And so her note to me the next morning was much warmer. And I think because I approached my response in a way that I tried to be kind and warm and thoughtful in the way I responded. And sometimes I've learned that it's better just to pick up the phone and make a phone call as opposed to responding via email, because we all know this, right? There's a lot of tone and facial expressions that we can't see if we're not meeting with someone or even talking to them on the phone. And so sometimes I'm just like, forget it. I am not going to answer this question in an email. I'm going to pick up the phone and do it. And so, I think this goes for so much in life. It's about taking a breath. And sometimes we feel like we need to answer questions very quickly. And it's better to take a breath or take some time and then respond in a way that's just not going to take the energy way up high.
Sure.
So that's a part of my day. Sometimes that can be a little tough, but that's, in the big scheme of things, that's no big deal. It's behavior that I've learned over time, and how to respond, I think, well, or better than maybe I did 30 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson for all of us. We're all so used to, we have so many tools at our disposal. We can text, we can, use Teams, you can use email,
Mhm.
and things do get lost in translation.
Mhm.
Great, thanks. So is that what you like or you don't like? Did you tell us what you?
That's the part that can be tough sometimes. And I can't say that I don't like it. But I think sometimes those conversations are just quite simply, they can be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And another thing about my job, it's interesting, is sometimes when you're working with families, you realize there are families where people don't like each other. And you've got two people in the same room, and it's clear that it's just not, that relationship is not very good. And but they're there because they have a student that I'm working with. And so it's not that I don't like it. That's a good question, Renee. It's just that sometimes those situations are uncomfortable. And I'm sure in HR, you get that a lot, Amy, so I would say on any given day, I get out of bed really excited to go to work.
Yeah, that's great. And, it kind of reminds me, we were talking in the office the other day about when you go to work, you don't get to choose your coworkers, right? But you have to learn how to have mutual respect, and you have to develop relationships. And I think that's all new when you're first starting out, because up until that point, you've chosen your friends, and you've chosen, maybe your partner, family, that's another given. But you do have to develop some skills around working through some tough situations like that. All right, so we had a question in the Q&A from one of the students out here. I guess, Amy, this is directed towards you. I'm a senior who's interested in human resources as a potential career. Would you recommend having any certifications as a leg up going into the industry?
Well, first of all, I'm super excited to hear that. It really is a fascinating line of work. And I personally believe that the role of HR at a company is really only going to expand over time as like the capabilities of an HR team are expected to grow. I'll be curious to think about what Jameson thinks about this, but I actually think that recruiting is an excellent foot in the door to the broader world of HR. I started in a recruiting role, and a big chunk of what I still do today is recruiting. So I think that it is a really important foundation for developing that broader human resources skill set. That said, the most common certifications are the SHRM CP. So that's the Society of Human Resources Management Certified Professionals. And then there's a separate body, HRCI, which Human Resources Certification Institute, which has their own certification called the PHR, Professional in Human Resources. I think they're both equally respected in the world. And yeah, I would say that try to get a foot in the door, maybe in a specialty before you become a generalist. And if you're at a great place, hopefully your organization would pay for you to obtain those certifications or even to go get a master's degree. I got my master's degree from the University of Denver. They have a master's degree in strategic human resources management, and my current company was able to pay for that. So that was really great.
Great, thanks. Jameson?
I agree. I think that I think recruiting really is the best place to get in the door. And I think it's for probably all the good and the bad things that I had mentioned that I like and I dislike, right? Because it gives you the leg up. You have to be able to talk about not only what other opportunities are in the organization, but you have to then understand what are the benefits you're selling to potential candidates? What's going on in the organization from a culture standpoint? Who are they going to work with? My job isn't just to go out and find people and put them in seats, right? It is selling them on this entire idea of what Logs.io and my company is. And that means what are different departments doing? And as a recruiter, you have to know, you have to have the knowledge of what's going on in every different department and how they're starting to drive those departments and how that position that you're recruiting for is affecting those departments. Because if you're in sales, doesn't mean you're just doing sales, right? You're affecting the product, you're affecting the marketing, you're affecting the finances of the organization, all of that. So my recommendation to anyone in reality that's, coming out of college, take a breath. You just went through 4 years of learning. And in reality, you've been learning for 20, whatever it might be, 15, 18 years, right? Take a breath. Don't jump back into it right away. Those certifications can be there. They definitely help down the road. I think it definitely helps progress your career. Will it be a showstopper for anyone? For me, no. When I'm recruiting, it doesn't matter to me if you have that. I'm actually hiring an HR business partner right now, and it doesn't matter for me if they have their PHR or anything like that. If they do, it definitely, helps me to have a conversation with them, but give it some time. You'll see that as your career progresses, and if you feel like HR is the right area, you're going to have mentors that are along the way that are going to say, hey, maybe it is the right time for you to go down that road. There are other folks that might tell you differently. So give it time. Don't jump in right away, because it's just going to feel like another college course all over again. And you've just done that. And I really think it becomes a lot of information overload before you have any actual hands-on experience that might tell you a little bit different about it.
I think that's great advice, especially because some of those certifications can be a pretty large financial undertaking. And I think, Amy, you mentioned from where you thought you were going to be when you first graduated from college to where you are right now was a pretty squiggly line.
Sure was. Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't do any of that when I waited until a couple of years. I thought I was into my current broad HR role to be like, this is what I want to do. And these are benefits available to me. I'm going to take advantage of them.
Absolutely. Make sure, like most companies out there, even in the COVID world, even now more in the COVID world, are giving back to their employees, through different means of learning and growth. And because there is so much opportunity out there, most companies will pay for some of these. So it's why it's most important just to take a step back, see what the company's like that you're joining in. 9 times out of 10, these companies are going to want you to continue your education. And sometimes they can't do that internally. They might be too small to do that. So they are going to pay for these external education opportunities. So like Renee said, you're eventually going to be paying the man for the rest of your life. Let them pay for you too, right? It's out there. Take advantage of those opportunities as well.
Right. I wanted to give you a chance, panelists, to think back to being at St. Mike's. What would you tell your 22-year-old self that based on what you know now?
Be a better listener. That's honestly, I think St. Mike's helped me grow a ton. Like, I honestly could say I did not know how to write a paragraph before I went to St. Mike's. It really helped me learn a whole new way of thinking and all of that. But being a listener and like Amy and Lauren said, taking chances. I was 30 when I moved into Boston. Like, that's pretty late in life when I moved into the city, right? And I wish I did that when I was 22. And sounds like Lauren and Amy, went out and did that. I'm doing it now later, right? And I really wish I just jumped off rather than kind of going back home and living in my hometown where I'm so comfortable and all of that. But listening is a huge thing. I wish I learned at 22 to sit back and listen to things around you rather than trying to have to be front and center and trying to be that person that you think everyone else wants you to be. That's super important.
Right. Lauren?
I'm struggling with this one, and I think perhaps because my path has been so circuitous, that I don't know what I would say to myself. I'm really struggling with that one. So I don't have a great answer. I just don't.
No worries. Amy?
So I have 2 things. The first I would say is, I got worked up a lot about what am I going to do? Who am I going to marry? Where am I going to live? Like, this big picture of how you envision your life. That really weighed on me, and I had no idea how it was going to come together, but it does. And step at a time, and a step in the right direction is always so important. And then secondly, this is kind of very HR advice, but I would encourage everyone to really pay attention to your benefits at whatever organization you do join, and start a retirement account early. Even if it's a very small contribution a month, especially if your employer doesn't match. It is just one of the best benefits that is available there. And it's so hard to imagine, why am I saving for my 70s when I'm here in my 20s? But that compounding interest really is a big advantage. And don't delay, because the sooner you get started, the better it is for you.
I remember saying something very similar to that many years ago when I used to go into the Career Education Center and do practice.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you might not, just kind of along that line of benefits, you might not work at a Google where there's ping pong tables and dry cleaning and lunch every day, but there's probably going to be some really decent benefits at your organization. If there's not, find the place that does have them, and then take advantage of them, because it's not just your salary, it's everything that comes with that. And then to even circle back to what we were just saying, maybe it's not the most thrilling job in the world. Maybe it's not your dream job, but if they offer a really decent learning and development program, it's going to give you an amazing step up to your next opportunity. And it's also going to make sure that you don't feel like you're in a dead end job.
Yeah, great advice.
And even on top of that, benefits go beyond just the health and dental and vision and 401k, right? I think that it's now more than ever, we're all talking about mental health programs, right? There are these, most companies have an employer added program, and it's an EAP out there. And we have doubled our EAP program because of the amount of people that want to get help, whether it's financial help or mental health help, right? All of that. It's super important. Again, it's like Amy said, it's an HR thing where we're talking about it daily, but it's honestly something I put out on our Slack every single week is remember we're here to help. We're here to guide you to, if you need something, if something's going on at home or something's going on at work and you need to talk to a professional, go out and do that. Those are part of the benefits too. And you're going to see a lot more employers talk about the mental health side of things. And that's so important. And we talk about it every day at my company that taking the time off, time off is a benefit. Check how many days you have off. And if you do have days, take them. They're not going to roll over fully. They're not going to be there when you're 70, like Amy said, so you can cash out on all of them, unless you work for like an IBM, but you probably don't want to work for an IBM. Take the time, do those things, because I could tell you for 8 years of the 11 years, I barely took a day off, and I regret every single one of those days I lost and was not paid out, and I was giving money back. So look into the other programs that are beyond that, the mental health programs, your vacation programs. It's super important. And now as I get into my 30s, it's like, wow, I need to take advantage of every single one of those because I am paying into those at the same time. So it's really important that you can start that from day one at most organizations.
Sure. And like Lauren, you mentioned you have a break coming up for Thanksgiving. That's a little added bonus when you work in education, right?
Yeah, it's I'm thinking about all you're saying. I love the idea of like, the retirement accounts and mental health stuff, but working in education, a lot of people say, well, teachers are so lucky they get their summers off. I tend to think most good teachers actually work a fair amount in the summer as well. I know that I got my master's degree over the course of many summers. And when I was teaching, I did a lot of lesson planning and reading in the summer. I see you shaking your head, Marian, about that. It's I think good educators, though it looks like we have our summers off, are working pretty hard. At the same time, it is nice to be able to have right now, after I will be honest, we started faculty meetings at the end of August. We were down a person in our office. And so until 2 weekends ago, when I went to a funeral in Northern New Hampshire, I had not taken any time off. And that is the nature of this work at a school like this, but I'm really looking forward to 10 days where I don't have to be on campus and I can be off hiking and doing some fun things. So every industry has, I agree, its perks. I tend to like the perks that come along with education. And, I think I've made that pretty clear, but there's lots of other things too, the ping pong tables and the free meals. I get 3 of those a day too. And if anybody wants any information about working at a boarding school or an independent school, I can put some stuff up in the chat. And so it's not difficult to figure out how to find a job. So anyway, I'll put a few things in there.
Great, thanks. So we're coming up on the close of our panel. So folks out there in the audience, if you have any last minute questions that you would like to put in the Q&A, you certainly can. And then I'm thinking about our current world, our COVID world, students that are preparing to graduate or maybe look for internships. Possibly even changing their majors. What advice do you have for students in this era? Jameson, I'll throw it out there.
Well, Amy was a French major, right? I was a political science major. So clearly both of us are using that every single day of our working lives. I think in reality, you know, if you start with a political science major and you realize your junior year, it's, hey, I hate this, change. Honestly, like change and take as many classes as you possibly can that aren't just in your major. Honestly, the best classes I think I took were the history classes I took. It made me think a total different way than what I was doing during my political science era, time. I wish I took different classes in different areas at that point. After it, honestly, I say this in every St. Mike's panel I'm on, it doesn't matter what your degree is. You know, if you are interested in that type of career and you're driven to be something that you really feel like you can get into it, you could do that. I have tech support engineers right now that are entry level one was an English major and he self-taught himself a few of our languages over a course of 2 months so that he could become a tech support engineer. And that's what you can do. So, you know, go and learn as much as you can. Take the critical thinking that you learned, the writing portions that you can learn from a liberal arts education. I loved it. I thought it was the best, and I still take a lot out of it, but worry less about the major and more about what you're learning. That's my opinion, at least. I don't think that might work for everyone. It's a little different in education, right? I get that, and probably some of the sciences, but again, there's some STEM folks out there that don't take that straight route to get there. It's all about the experiences, and you might not be using that exact major 5 years from now. So just keep an open mind about it.
Thank you. Lauren?
I actually agree with Jameson in terms of I'm not always sure that what you major in is, and I see Susie put something in the chat too about that. Even in the world of independent schools, if you go onto any one of those websites that I put up, clearly, if you're going to teach science, you should have background in science. If you're going to teach math, you should have background in math. I was a journalism major at St. Mike's. I did take 3 semesters later on at a local state college to get certified to teach public school. And I did that for a while. Ultimately, I think my experience as a writer at St. Mike's has helped me a lot. One of the independent schools that I've worked at, I taught half-time and I worked in advancement half-time. I put together the school magazine. And so my journalism background really did help me a lot. I took French in high school. I took a couple classes of French in college. I traveled to Morocco and had to communicate in French. So it all comes around. So if you go to any one of these websites, you will see that independent schools are looking for nurses. They're looking for IT folks. They're looking for people in communications. They're looking for people in career services. So it's not all about teaching. There are lots of different routes you can take if you're going to work at an independent school. So check these sites out. The jobs are really starting to fill now. Schools begin in November all the way through the end of the year to look for folks to fill jobs for the following school year. It's already starting for us. So take a look. There's a lot out there.
Awesome. Thanks. Amy?
I'll wrap us up. So I am someone, I would move back to St. Mike's tomorrow, pack my things and be at Ryan Hall in a moment's notice. I think that the curriculum provided by a liberal arts college is invaluable towards whatever you want to do, because you are learning to think critically, you're learning to write, you're learning to communicate thoughtfully and strategically, and you're learning to work with others. And those skill sets will set you up for success in anything that you choose to pursue. So study what inspires you. Because if you're inspired, you're going to be able to inspire others around you. And that is exactly the kind of energy that people want at their organizations.
Thanks. Well, Lauren and I lived in Ryan Hall too.
We did.
A little blast from the past, but Ryan Hall, not in the student inventory right now. Nobody's living there.
That's very sad. That's where
There's
I lived
space
as
for
well.
me.
Plenty of space.
Oh, good.
I think it's overflow for students that have to be in isolation for COVID.
I'll take it anyway. It's fine.
Yeah, come back anytime. When I was talking with Jameson, he hasn't been on campus for a while. Things look great on campus, but very different. All right, well, I want to thank all of you panelists and thank the students who are out there attending tonight. So this webinar was recorded, and all the webinars throughout this past month will be available on a YouTube channel that will be publicized by the Alumni Relations Office. And I think when I hit end, we're all going to go away. So I want to thank panelists for agreeing to be part of this tonight. And thank you, Susie and Marianne, for helping out. And, you know, I can't say enough about using St. Mike's to network. You know, the alumni board, all the people here on this panel truly want to help students, new alumni. That's what being a St. Mike's alum is all about. It's about connections. Please use us for that so that we can help you out. Any parting words, panelists?
Take risks.
Take risks. No,
Enjoy where you're at.
yeah, it's going to be a squiggly line no matter where you start.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And have fun.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. And happy
Thank
Thanksgiving.
Bye, everybody.